I'm Jim Pirnik. Going to cover a little bit today about what Shell's done in the IAM space. I guess as people have said, don't waste a good crisis. So we had a bit of a crisis a while back, and so now we're taking advantage of it and doing quite a bit in the IAM space. And then I'm going to hand off to Loren to talk some about ping. So quick intro.
No, I think we're good. It says it right there.
All right. So number one at Shell, health, safety, and environment is extremely important. Nobody at this conference told you how to get out of here if something happens. So I want to make sure you all go home and work on your IAM and survive and are safe. So out the doors, up the stairs, and then the main door is right there in front of us. But just so you know, every meeting in Shell starts with a safety slide. Every external meeting starts with a really nice disclaimer, which pretty much says don't make any investments based on anything we tell you here. But I won't read it. We don't have enough time. So I'm the IAM Portfolio Manager at Shell. Just a little bit on size of Shell. I think we exceeded Exxon last year. So biggest integrated oil company now. Quite a bit of this. I'd have a similar slide and I couldn't find it before the conference, but it covers like all of our IT aspects. So next time I'll get that one in here too. So we get more than just the business. But fully integrated oil and gas company covering, and beyond that now we're energy, power, significant trading. So everything from find something in the ground to, make it into a chemical refined product, whatever, and everything in between. So that's where you come into, we have a lot of use cases. So at Shell, our IAM environment pretty much was, AD and single sign-on for a long time. And we had some smart cards, and that was all great and well. But as we moved to the cloud, as we did a lot more, as we're trying to integrate, it was becoming more and more difficult, obviously, to stick with this on-premise, everything in your environment type setup. So we said, well, we got to start working on this, and we got to work on IAM as a whole. And so we kind of formed up what we now call the IAM Portfolio. We've actually also merged it with security. So we're going to have to add another part of our umbrella here because security is now part of us and one team. And then to help explain it to people, we divvied it up into identity access and privileged access. And that was mostly just to help explain it. So no real other reason than that, to make it simple, make it a little more engaging for our audience to consume. At the bottom, you'll see all of our related suppliers. Obviously, we need a lot of help. It's quite a big environment, and we need all the options we can as far as solving our unusual and challenging use cases in a lot of cases. The next slide is more or less a similar view, but stuck it more in the IAM ecosystem from a B2C, B2B, B2E. So what are we really using each of these different suppliers for? So obviously we have a huge environment for ping. We're at I think last month we were 4.5 million authentications. I think that's still heading up. We've connected I think we're over 200 apps now. So we're at like 207 or something, I think I saw on a deck yesterday, and growing, with the goal of hitting about 300 by the end of the year. And definitely want to talk to AWS about fast fed so we can really accelerate those numbers. But for now, this is where we are, and this is what we're trying to do. And then besides those, you see Saviynt, we're using that mostly for access. And then open text for a lot of third parties, suppliers. Janrain for simply B2C for the most part. A little bit of our B2B customer space. But most focus here in discussion today is ping and what we've done with ping. So with that, I'll say, here was our problems, complexity, a lot of technical challenges, quite a bit of security issues, and taking all that into account, we evaluated quite a number of vendors to try and decide how we'd want to do identity and identity management, and then where we'd want to do it. And our first plan was definitely not to put it in the cloud. But in the long run, we decided to put all of it in the cloud. So that's really why all this gets kind of interesting. This is a little bit on our history. I hit some of it, but we actually had we've had two identity stores for forever, well over 10 years. That's the good news at Shell. We got the identity part right. We had smart cards all embedded in our system, so it was great, and everybody thought all that was wonderful because it worked great for the last 15 years. And then we threw everything out in the cloud, and then people go, well, none of this works anymore, and how do we do this? And it's more difficult. So then we rolled out Office 365, and that made it even more complex. In between there, we put SiteMinder and CloudMinder out for helping with more of our web apps and getting to the cloud for authentication. And then we were like, well, okay, we need a better roadmap, better plan. So we did some evaluations, picked Ping. I think that was in something like July or 2017. Yeah, about July 2017. Started an implementation project in February of 2018. And by July of 2018, had a fully scalable, wonderful environment, all in the cloud, up and running, and we moved everything off of FAS in the following 6 months. So completely vacated our other platform, turned it off at the end of the year. And we were kind of excited. So as I said, it's fully deployed on AWS. It's 2 zones, 2 regions, 2 zones, all high availability, all auto scale. And I'd have to say we've only had one, I guess, significant, call it issue, where a domain controller hung and kind of tied up ping fed, and then we overcame that rather quickly, and we've upgraded the entire environment without taking it down. And users, for the most part, don't even know anything changes. So that's all the good stuff. We have a test, a dev, a UAT, and a prod environment. It's all everything on AWS, and all actually working quite well. So we deployed the whole suite, and then we use Ping1, the true cloud service, multi-tenant cloud service, as our MFA on the other side. Well, wrong button. As I said, 140 apps done last year, 160 planned for this year. We're already at 207, I think, and moving that along. We have about 17 use cases we've fully met, which were the ones that were our existing environment. We've added a few more, and then we have quite a number of larger, more complex, and a bit crazier use cases in our backlog that's kind of why we have multi-vendors, multi-tools to find different ways to troubleshoot and solve these types of issues. And there's what it actually looks like. So we made it, again, non-shellified, but which has our whole environment, all a Simio managed tenant on our behalf, all in AWS, and then leveraging and tying that back into our existing AD environment, as well as tying it into Ping1 for MFA. So I won't be, anybody wants to hit some questions on that real quick,
yeah.
Or I'm gonna hand it over to Loren to talk more about, obviously, a Ping1 or a Ping private tenant.
Got a question?
How many ping fed engines do you have?
I have 8. I'm gonna say, yeah, there's 8. My architect's right up front.
Got a few up front.
Yeah, well, we got a little bit of help. So other questions? And I'd say the good news is now with the latest update we've done, we can update any individual component because we're finally on the latest levels of the Ping product stack. So now we can individually turn things on and off and add them back to the clusters. And so upgrading and staying alive will be significantly easier. And only having our one minor outage in a year, I thought that was pretty good. Others?
What type of clustering? Of those 8 servers, what type of clustering are you using? So it's all real-time nodes. So every one of the node is active. So we deployed across 2 different regions. So 4 nodes in one region, 4 nodes in another region. They keep syncing almost real time. So any changes that are pushed out by the admin goes automatically to all the nodes of the ping thread cluster. So that clustering is spanned across all the individual components that you see. So it's not just ping thread, but just a multi-node. Every other node is multi-node.
Are you using any Docker container AWS?
Not yet.
Yes, I know.
So what IDs are you, as far as you have report AD yet, are you syncing identities between directory and AD at the time?
Yeah, we're pulling more or less. I think we cut it down significantly, only 7. How many attributes? We're just syncing 19 attributes or 17?
Yeah, so we have 2 sources for the attributes for every identity and the account that we store in our ping directory. We have a centralized source where we get most of the attributes, like 20 plus, and there is a few that only comes from our active directory because that information stays and gets created only in active directory. So there's a 2-way sync which feeds into our ping directory, which forms the central identity or account store, which is then used by the source solution.
What their provisions they need for, like, for the IPA for?
Yes.
They are provisioned into 80, yes.
Yeah, we haven't set up any auto provisioning yet. That's really our next step that we're going to look at to kind of solve the joiner mover lever scenario to where it's much more automated and flows. But I got to get a foundation working first. So we're now done with the foundation and trying to clean it up and solidify and make sure it all works the way we want. And then we're going to go to the next step. Okay. And then I'll give it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Jim. So I'm here, and I want to invite you into a conversation because we're, I think, what, 12 minutes in? And we have about 10 more minutes. And so some of the stuff I'll cover is just to highlight some of the challenges we've seen in the market. And then what I want to talk about is how Ping's responding to some of those challenges. And you look at it, Ping's been very focused on large enterprise customers. You take Shell, for example, they've done a lot of changes. I guess look at their roadmap. They've gone from data center to where they've gone to hosted. They start consuming identity services, and they start leveraging multi-tenant SaaS. And so you look across the gamut, these large enterprises have these patterns. And so large enterprises are complex. How many of you feel you have a complex environment that you have to manage? I think we all do. How many will always live in hybrid IT? I talked to a large bank one time, and I used this quote, and I asked them, I said, so you got a cloud-first strategy? They said, yeah, everyone does. I mean, we all have cloud-first strategies. And then I asked, how long is it going to take you to get there? Any guess what they said?
20 years.
So my favorite was that it's 5 years to never. And they really never thought they would get there. And so you consider hybrid IT environments are important. And as we go through this, consider the environment that I choose, either be it, multi-tenant SaaS, all in the cloud, via AWS, and I roll my own, via a partner or leveraging a vendor. We all have to live along this continuum and best utilize those services that I consume. And then solving for multiple IAM use cases. How many wish they could just solve for workforce? Well, wouldn't that be nice? Not really. They're kind of the most painful, to be honest. But you've got consumer, you've got B2B use cases. I remember one of our partners or customers came up and said, I have 150,000 supply chain partners. How do I deal with that? That's a big identity problem. And any guess that they all had perfect identity infrastructures to integrate? Not at all. They got all from mom and pops to very large organizations that got to continue, something you guys would consider. But you all have cloud mandates. Raise your hand, how many do not have a cloud mandate in this room? Good, you probably wouldn't be at this conference. So all right, so let's move on. So we look at this spectrum that I talked about, and as we at Ping look at our enterprise customers and we listen to what their problems are, we listen to those challenges that I just described, we've got customers across the chasm here, and we'll mainly focus on those cloud options today and what that means and what we're offering in those spaces. But consider I have cloud initiatives. I need to be in the cloud and just reach down on-prem to connect. How many are using a cloud service and reaching back into like your Active Directory environments today? Anyone? Now, how about the other? How many are trying to move to AWS? You're trying to move things. You still need to reach back in to your data centers, but you still want to leverage some SaaS. You're actually going to consume services out of SaaS. You're going to migrate some of your workloads, but you're still going to maintain connections back. How many are in that range? A few of you. And then how many are still in that on-prem arena where you're really, all of your infrastructure is in a data center on-premise, but I'm trying to connect either to SaaS applications or workloads that I've migrated out there? Okay, a few. And how many are across the board? You handle every one of those use cases. All right. So let's talk a little bit about this cloud options if we look at the spectrum. So first off today, what we're talking about is a set of services that Ping will bring to market over the next half of the year. And it's something we call private cloud or Ping Cloud Private Tenant. And it's really to try to sit in the middle of companies that roll their own. So they're either in data center or they're migrating their applications or infrastructure out to the cloud. There are those that are leveraging partners. So we have many MSP partners that our customers are going and leveraging them to take our software, move it out to AWS to transition. Private cloud is, in a sense, in support of that, to where we will now host our software products in the cloud for you. So we help eliminate some of that infrastructure problem, but that identity and access management problem still exists. And then we have customers that are very much migrating to the cloud and looking for what services they can go there. So let's talk about what private cloud is intending to do. There are these, essentially 5 bullets. The first is we're giving you a focus on configuration versus worrying about constantly upgrading and managing that environment. Now, how many would like to get out of the infrastructure management business of IAM software? And you got a few options. You can either go 100% to the cloud, go multi-tenant SaaS and consume it out of there, or else you look for that in between. You can choose a managed service provider, or you can go with something like private cloud, Ping hosted version of our software. Now, how many, when you look at that, how do I simplify IAM? How do I bring self-service context to what used to be lots of fields and I'd say wizards and a lot of clicks and a lot of custom code? We're now starting to simplify that. Well, we have customers that say, you know what, I can go 100% cloud. I can go even a SaaS option. I can use a general purpose configuration for like MFA or for connecting to Salesforce. But what happens when you have to reach back on-prem? What happens when you have to do some kind of custom integration with those environments? And it's really, how do I balance that simplify IAM versus moving to that very complex environment, and how do I manage that cost? Next, we'll talk about responding rapidly to global business needs. That's where I need to have data isolation in Frankfurt, and I would like to have infrastructure to do that. I can't just use a global service. And how do I be able to target other countries that we may not have services or deployments in? And last 2 is then, how do I control data and security, meaning I got the right data isolation and I can minimize the security posture. And then how do I architect for hybrid? How do I ensure that I can support that? So first off, configurable authentication authority in Ping language is just really, how do you take the benefits of Ping ID, being our MFA service out of Ping 1, how do you then take Ping Federate, which is a great authentication authority for helping manage configuration for groups and for different kind of authentication devices, and how do you have a centralized identity store? How do you unify profile to be able to manage authentication against that? So what we're offering then is all of that in an installation, in the cloud as a single vendor offering that will give you that authentication authority. What that does is provide that consistent way for managing all the diverse resources. Allows you to support via standards. So this is leveraging all the benefits of Ping Federate to be able to say, I can take SAML in, OAuth out, I can take OIDC in, SAML out the back end, and essentially leverage a lot of the capabilities that Ping Federate offers. I can address very complex trust relationships that Ping Federate does today, and then I can balance that kind of user convenience and making sure that they have the right infrastructure, as well as reduce the risk, and essentially leverage this platform that will give you those capabilities there. So essentially it's, if I could route all my traffic through this authentication authority that's in the cloud, you don't have to manage the infrastructure, but you have all of the strength and benefit of this highly capable Ping Federate, Ping Directory, and Ping ID platform. I think there's a solution there to start. Next, as we get into how do you simplify and minimize costs? Well, many of our customers are choosing MSPs. So Shell, they chose Simio, and Simio is a great provider for providing managed service, essentially hosted service of our software. If we take just the software and migrate it out, we've minimized what it takes to upgrade and manage that infrastructure. That IAM cost is still there. You still need to look at how do I then perhaps outsource the administration of that platform. But here, if I have it all centrally managed in one place, if I can now start to provide self-service tools, I start to minimize the number of human resources that have to actually manage and configure that environment. And so it's really helping you, again, migrate from on-prem to cloud, start to then centralize the authentication authority, and then start to provide self-service tools on top of that to help simplify and minimize costs for your environment. How do we respond rapidly to global business needs? How many have only US data centers? Anyone? How many have global data centers? Here's the hard question. How many have China and Russia data centers? And so this will not answer all those questions, but it starts to give you an opportunity to say, if I could leverage an infrastructure from a vendor to deploy my software, then I can start to address some of those broader global needs. So how do I then isolate for a region, but how can I then leverage this service to very quickly churn up an environment in a global environment that I might need? And then how do I control that data and security posture? How many are concerned, and maybe many of you aren't, but how many are concerned about centralizing all your identities, for example, in Azure AD in the cloud? Anyone? Very few, the honest ones. How many are not? How many would like to have some data isolation, some way to sort of control how that data is managed and have it ensured that there is that right separation of duty? There. A few of you would. We see customers across the chasm. They say there's some information, some attributes I would love to store in a cloud directory, make it common because it scales, the economics of it are really good. But I also have particular needs that I'd like to move to the cloud, but make sure that I have that data isolation, I have that security posture that supports that. How would I like to be able to support hybrid, meaning I have ping directory on-prem, ping directory in a hosted cloud, and I can provide synchronization across to create that unified profile, but I can keep all the secure information in my data center or in a secure place. So again, how do I leverage the right architecture in a single tenancy and be able to connect with my data center to cloud, provides this level of data security and posture that you're looking for. And the last is how do you architect for hybrid use cases? The fact that it is the same software in your data center, same software in cloud, you can start to then look at a consistent hybrid IT environment. So how many of you, as you're migrating applications like to Azure AWS, would like to have feature parity between what's in my data center and in the cloud? Same capabilities in both. We hear that quite often. Quite often, if you move to the cloud, you take a reduced set of capabilities. We have customers that's great, they would like to simplify. Others are saying they have the challenge to maintain that parity across. And with Ping, because of our leading set of adapters, our connectors, we do deep integration with a lot of those enterprise environments. We're allowing you ability to do very rich, deep integration in your on-premise, but do it from a cloud context. Last then is just this notion of, if you take advantage of software deployed in cloud, take advantage of private tenant, either delivered through Ping or through some of our managed service partners, we believe you can start to tackle some of these IAM challenges. You can do that with the same software that you're familiar with using on-premise and data center and the cloud. It helps you speed up your business deployment. We've had customers say, even just getting a new server to connect to a new application has perhaps 6 weeks to 2 months of time, just because that infrastructure that I need to deploy. We've had others say that I can't find enough IAM experts in the market. I would like to centralize and simplify and focus only on configuration. That would really ease the cost and simplify the deployment. And then last is just how do I control data? How can I ensure that I have a private tenancy and control of the data that's supported versus going to kind of an all-in SaaS environment? So with that, I think I left us 1 minute for questions. Do any of you have questions, or did I tease you to come talk to us afterwards and come talk to us about all of our offerings across that spectrum?
Private cloud option is available this fall.
So private, it's a great question. We haven't announced it, and we're not even sort of soft launching it, but yes, it's something that we're targeting for Q3 of this year.
And what's the product name?
Ping Cloud Private Tenant is official. Yeah, that's an official name that we'll be using. Yep. Did everyone hear that? So call it Ping Cloud Private Tenant, or PCPT if you want to see the tattoos. They're right there. They're great. There's a lot of concern. I think we've got partners that are in the room as well, and we intend for this platform to be something that is just, again, a hosting of our software that it will enable customers or partners to leverage it as a set of services that they can consume. And so consider the value of that is we are really trying to attack getting you out of that infrastructure management business of software. We have customers just like, man, it's such a nightmare. If you guys could keep it updated, keep it upgraded, manage it for us, that would be great. We would still like to roll our own. We'd still like to integrate it with other platforms. We'd like our partner to manage. And that's certainly the vision that we have going forward. Other comments, questions? All right, we're at 0. So I think we're done. Thank you for your time. I appreciate it.